Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is going to be another in my series of RHCE practice sessions where I am not necessarily trying to give authoritative information or be a tutorial, but I'm going through the objectives, seeing if I can talk about them, seeing if I can do some examples of them as a way of self-assessing if I'm ready for my RHCE exam. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who has not subscribed yet to click that subscribe button and ring the bell when you do, so you can be aware of when new content comes available. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those with the video, both praise as well as critique. I enjoy it all, and as I have time and ability, I may be able to respond to them. If you enjoy the video, make sure you do click like and share with others if you feel that they would find some use out of this particular video. So the objective that we're going to be covering in this video is under the be able to perform all tasks expected of a Red Hat Certified System Administrator part of the RHCE objectives, and it is the configure and create and configure file systems objective. We actually started this on the last video, got to about halfway through of the objectives, and I saw the video was running a bit long, so I decided to split it into two videos. These objectives are probably the most difficult for me. This whole group of objectives are kind of the review piece of your RHCSA information, because you have to know about RHCSA stuff to be able to do well with the RHCE exam, or so the objectives tell us. And I remember during my RHCSA preparation, things like NFS, which not NFS itself, but using a tool called AutoFS, as well as VDO and Stratus were a challenge for me, and I did well enough on the RHCSA exam, obviously, to pass it and earn the certification. I can't tell you whether or not I had to deal with those on the exam. First of all, I can't remember a lot of what I had on the exam, and even if I could, I can't tell you anyway because of the NDA that you have to agree to take their exams. But I do remember during my preparation for them, those were some of the more challenging things. And so as a result, in that last video, I could not make the AutoFS stuff work. And so what that tells me is, for my own preparation for RHCE, I need to spend some time, go back over some tutorials and do some practice in my lab to make sure I have that in my head well enough to where if it does come up on RHCE, then I'm able to do those objectives. And some of the ones that we're going to hit today are also going to be pretty challenging for me, because they were challenging back during RHCSA, and almost all of my preparation for RHCE to date has been with Ansible, just because that's the major focus of the exam. So really, these objectives I'm going over with this and the previous couple of videos are truly a kind of reminder of me of what do I remember from my RHCSA stuff, and how well do I still have it under my fingers, so to speak. So the objectives we're going to hit in this video under that create and configure file systems, which of course that's an objective header from RHCSA that they've imported into RHCE. We're going to be looking at the create and configure set-GID directories for collaboration. We'll be looking at the configure disk compression, which that works with VDO, manage layered storage, which works with Stratus, and diagnose and correct file permission problems. So getting right to it, as I said in the last video, this is just, here's part 2 of that whole objective set. So we're still here with our server 2, and we're going to make some users real quick. And actually, we'll make a couple of users and some groups. So let's do this. Let me clear my screen here. We're going to user add, we'll do user add Hinata, user add Hanabi. And let's cat @c passwd, make sure it gave them a home directory. Yeah, I know in the Ubuntu world you don't always get that by default, but in the RHEL world it'll go ahead and make your home directory and assign you a shell and such. We're also going to do user add, let's see, who else do we want to do? Let's do user add Ashura and user add Indra. All right, we're going to create some groups. So group add Hyuga and group add, I can't spell Otsutsuki. Oh well, I was going to be clever, but let's see. I think that's how that's going to be. Okay, well, this is what it's going to be in my lab. And let's add the users to the group. So usermod -ag Hyuga Hinata. What? Usermod ag Hyuga Hanabi. We'll do the same thing or similar thing to Otsutsuki. I think I should have another T there. Anyway, caught up on things that don't really matter for this. Ashura and Indra. Okay, so we have 4 users and we have a couple of groups and each group has the users. So this idea of set-GID is that if that bit is set on a directory and you create files in that directory, then the group owner or all files are going to inherit the group owner of the directory. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So let's make a directory. We're going to call this, we'll call it Ninja Mission. All right. And ls-l, currently Ninja Mission is owned by root and the group owner is root for that. So we're going to change the group owner to, actually, let's do this. Ninja Mission, let's say that Indra is in charge of all of the Ninja Missions. All right, so Ninja Mission, we'll do change Chone, rather. Indra, and let's do Hyuga as the group, and Ninja Mission. Chone, not Chidaon. All right, ls-l. All right, awesome. Now, notice how Indra is going to have read, write, execute. Hyuga is going to have read, write. All right, so let's change the mode to 775 Ninja Mission. All right, so both people in the Indra. Is this how I want to do this? Well, I think I'm focusing too much on my scenario. Let's go into it and see what's happening here. So let's go in, or actually, yeah. Indra is going to be able to have rewrite, execute, and then everyone in the Hyuga group will have that as well. So let's go into Ninja Mission and let's VI, let's do land of waves.txt, and let's put in some text here. Naruto must save the bridge. Now, I'm not giving too many spoilers here, but we do ls-l. Notice who actually owns the file here. It is by root and root. So even if I were to su into, and actually, yeah, even if I were to su into Indra, all right, so I'm now Indra. I can go into Ninja Mission. I see the file. I can cat it because of the permissions, but let's say I want to write to it. Notice it says read only. All right, so let's go in insert mode. And all right, obviously can't do that. Let's see if the override flag would work. All right, cat land of wave. Huh, that actually worked. I'm kind of surprised. Well, that's not what I was expecting. But the point being is typically, well, now it's Indra. So it changed the, that's kind of nifty. I didn't know you could do that. Things you realize when you're doing practice sessions for an exam. I got to figure out exactly how that's working, because what I expected was to not be able to write to the file. Maybe that's a special thing in VI. Who knows? So let's actually go back to root. We're going to make another file. I'm just going to touch land of fire. We see that land of fire is owned by root. So this idea of set-GID is if you set that bit in the permissions for the directory, then files that are created in that directory are going to get the group owner of the directory. So for example, let's say that Indra being in charge of all the missions, wants to make a bunch of files, and we want to allow the Hugo folks to be able to have whatever permissions on the files. Well, what we can do is, let's go up here. We're going to change mode, and we're going to do G plus capital S. And we're going to do Ninja Mission. Oh, it was capital S. Well, when in doubt, check the set-GID bit. Should be that, yeah. All right, so another way of doing this, if capital S doesn't work, I thought it was capital S for set-GID. Or maybe it's just G plus S. Let's try it with just the plus S. Okay, that must have been it. And yeah, all right, see how we have RWS. The other way of doing it is you can do octal notation, where if you were to do 2 and then your permissions, so like instead of 777, you would have 2777. That would set the GID bit. And so what this does, since that's now been set, and Hugo is the group owner of Ninja Mission, if I were to go into Ninja Mission again and touch a file, so we're going to call this Land of Earth. Notice that Hugo is the root owner. Again, the idea of the collaboration piece of this is an easy way for me to grant Hugo rights to the files that are made here without having to like give every file its own little access control list and all that kind of stuff. But that's what the set-GID bit is. There is a set user ID bit, which that is you run the file as whatever the user owner is. That's something that you see with passwd. That's something you typically are not going to want to set for things unless you truly know what you're doing. And then the sticky bit, which is basically setting that bit on the other part that allows only the owner of the file to delete it. But setting GID for directories for collaboration, that's all you do. So it was G plus S, not plus capital S for that. The other thing, I'm going to skip over 2 of these objectives real quick and come back to them. The diagnose and correct file permission problems. Well, it's kind of obvious. If you can't access something that you need, check and see who the owner and such is. Check and see if the permissions for that are right. The other thing that you would want to look for is a plus sign. So if I were to do get facal, get ACL, file ACL for Land of Earth, we see that basically the access control list is just matching what you would have for your normal octal permissions. If I were to set FACL, let's see if I remember my commands here. We're going to modify, we're going to do user, and this user will do Hanabi explicitly. And the permission that we want to give you is read, write, execute. And we're going to do that to Land of Earth. Not set fac, set FACL. All right, so let's take a look at the man page real quick. Maybe let's see, yeah. Ambiguous use of M. I'm kind of surprised with that. I need to do U colon. That was it. Okay, so let's try this again. U colon Hanabi, Land of Earth. There we go. Now it likes it. And if I were to get FACL, Land of Earth, we see Hanabi has that. And let's take a look at ls-l for Land of Earth. Notice how we have a plus sign here for that. So the idea of this diagnose and correct file permission problems, if octal notation and such looks right and the group and user owner looks right, but something is going on, probably there could be an issue with access control lists. And the way that you know if something has that access control list on it or not, then you would look for the plus sign instead of the dot for the file. So that's just what we'll be looking for that diagnosing and correcting permission problems. All right, now for the 2 objectives that I've kind of been dreading doing the videos on these, because I'm not allowing myself any review of RHCSA stuff prior to doing this. I'm truly just kind of giving a practice session of, if I took the exam today, can I do this? So let's see what I can make happen here. So configuring disk compression, that's going to be with VDO, which is, I think it stands for Virtual Data Optimizer. And that is a technology that you actually can do several things with this. Disk compression is one of them. The other thing, if I remember right, is you basically can present more storage than you actually, deduplication is the thing that I'm thinking of there with our video. So let's clear our screen and let's go back to home directory. Let's look at ls dev. All right, so I have a partition for VDB1. What I'm actually going to do is we're going to destroy this partition. So fdisk, and then, oh wait, do I have any mounts on VDB1? You know, I have a logical volume. That's what I'm going to do. So actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause the video in just a moment. I'm going to revert a snapshot for server 02. So we're kind of back to a clean playing field before I continue with storage. So I will be right back. All right, so we're back. I've closed and made a new terminal window here, and let us ping labrel svr02. Make sure it's back up. It should be. The beauty of working with virtual machines when you're doing stuff like this is it's easy to get back to kind of the clean slate with it. And so I went to my hypervisor and just reverted my snapshot. So let's SSH back into the second lab server. I'm going to go ahead and sudo into root as well, just to keep having to do sudo over and over again for some commands. So VDO, we're going to start with a block device. So let us do, actually I need to install gdisk because this literally is a fresh install of rel 8. Of course I did sudo with root, it's kind of silly, but anyway, you're so used to doing sudo, then when you're in an environment where you don't have to do it, you tend to overdo sudo for that. Okay, so let's gdisk dev vdb, and we will new partition number 1. We're going to make it 1 gig plus 1 gig, and we're just going to keep Linux for that, and we are going to write that partition. Yes. Okay, so to work with video, again, you might have this stuff already installed in your environment. If you do, great. If not, one of the reasons why in my lab I use the minimal install of the servers is to make you have to install stuff. So hopefully when you are working with something on the exam, you'll remember what you need to install for that. And so let's see what I remember. So we're going to DNF install. We're going to install VDO as well as kmod kv. Is it kmod video or kmod kvideo? Let's see. Yep. KVDO. All right, that took a little longer than I expected, but it got done. So that's just one of the things if you do install something on during the exam, and remember, if it's in the Red Hat repositories, it's available for you to install. It could take a little bit to get the kmod kvideo piece of it installed. So there's a service that we need to enable, and that is going to be systemctl enable. Should just be called VDO -- now. CTL, not CLT. All right, systemctl status VDO. All right, so that is running and it's enabled. Okay, so we have our block device, and let's see if I can remember from this. Basically, what we're going to be doing is making. Now you have pool. I think pools are with Stratus. So we're going to be initializing a device for VDO, and we are going to be making a, not like LVM logical volume, but a logical entity of VDO. So let's see if I can remember my command here. Yep, let's see, VDO, I'm going to do VDO stats. There shouldn't be anything for this, yeah. All right, so I'm going to do man VDO because quite frankly, I can't remember this off the top of my head, but once I see a couple of these, it'll make sense. Yep, let's see here. Video create, I remember that. The device name we want, and we're going to have to tell it the video logical size. Yep. And slab size, that is, if I remember right, similar to physical extents with volume groups with logical volume manager. And all right. Video logical size. Yeah, this is coming back to me now. Then you can have compression going on or off. You can also have deduplication as well. There are also some, I remember there are some parameters with compression and deduplication. Deduplication in particular, I think there are some RAM requirements for deduplication that these little VMs have only 2 gigs of RAM, so we're not going to be able to do much with deduplication with that. And then the amount, you can get 10 to 1 for like the size of your logical volume versus how much actual physical space you have. I remember that being one of the things. I can't remember if that is for now it's coming back to me. You have sparse and dense. Sparse and dense deals with deduplication, if I recall correctly. I'm sure it's here in the man pages somewhere. Sparse deduplication, you can get 10 to 1. I can't recall. That will be something that I'm going to have to review before I do my exam. But anyway, so let's get this going here. So video create bash completion. Nope. So let's do this. Bash completion is a must in my opinion on your exam. So let's go ahead and install that. I'm actually going to exit and then sudo back into root. So now I have my bash completion. So video create dash dash. There's our bash completion. Ah, how I love thee. All right, so the device is going to be equals dev vdb1, and I have to give it a name. We're going to call it test video, and we have to give it a logical size. Video, that I remember. So this is a 1 gigabyte partition. Let's see if we can make it, let's do, I think equal 5. Not sure if it will take 5G or if I have to do like 5 GB, but we'll find out. We're going to keep defaults for deduplication and such. All right, let's see what happens here. Grant error, minimum size required for video is that many bytes for video volume. Okay, let's do this. 50 gigs. I think I know what the problem is. My block device itself, I believe, is too small. So let's increase I think we can do that. Yep, so GDisk, not sure how many gigs that is. Bytes to gigabyte. Can't do that math in my head. So GDisk, I guess we can do the entire block device. So we'll do that. Dev VDB, and we'll delete our partition. Write that, yes. Part probe. All right, so we'll just do the entire block device then. So that would be video create device. Device is going to be equal dev VDB. So we're just using the block device itself. Name is going to be test video for our video volume. Video logical size. So this is a 20 gigabyte volume. Let's see if we can get 100 gigs out of it. Ah, yes, I forgot about that. All right, what is that command? It's like clearfs. What is that? Basically, it still has a signature of the fact that we had a partition table. What is that command? It's a command that basically gets rid of any signatures that are on that device. All right, so man-k signature. Anything that comes, wipefs, that's it. Wipefs dev vdb. So if you're on the exam, this is what you're going to have to do. And let's look at man wipefs. Is there like a -a we need to give it? Yeah. So wipefs-a dev vdb. There we go. All right, so let's try our video one more time. Video create device equals dev vdb. Name equals test video. Video logical size equals 100 gigabytes. Okay, so now we have dev mapper test video and it's ready to go. df-h, actually ls block. See what we have there. Yep, we have our test video. That's actually 100 gigabytes. Now let's look at video stats. And we see, and I think there's a -- human readable, if I remember right. Yeah. All right, so the actual size of the, yeah, that makes sense now that I see that. The actual size of the physical device, we've used 4 gigs of it. We have 16 gigs available. Now, what's presented to the operating system is a 100 gigabyte block device that we can then add a file system to and all that good stuff. But you have to use the video stats to see what space is actually available on the device, and also show you what you're saving with compression as well. So if we wanted to mount a file system to this, the device that we're using for that is dev mapper. Now, if I were to do block ID, you will see a block ID, I believe, for this, or maybe not. Yeah, I remember when I was studying for RHCSA, there was one of these that you could not use the UUID for using that CFS tab, and I want to think video is it. Even though you have one, you still have to use that dev mapper test video to be able to make that happen. So let's see what I can remember with mounting video. You have to make sure that the video service is going to be running at that time. So I remember it was like systemd.services equals video was one. I think there was another, let's do man video. I think there was another option that had to be there for using video with etcfs tab. Here we go. May add dependencies. There it is. x-systemd requires equals video service. That's what I remember. And so you have the file system. That's the piece. I think I was doing netdev as well, which you don't necessarily need that because we're not doing anything over a network. But what I'm going to do is copy this here. What will happen if you don't have this in your etcfs tab file, then your machine's probably not going to finish booting. So let's make lsmnt. Let's make a directory mnt video. We're going to add a file system and mount it using etcfs tab. So let us do this. So make fs, we'll do xfs for dev mapper test video. I think there was a gotcha with that. We have to redo that file system there. Let me Control-C out of that. I remember with video, we have to tell it to not discard blocks. So let me look up, make fs, xfs, I think it's -e maybe for that. Now I can't remember the technical reason why this has to be K. That's it. Do not attempt to discard blocks, because that, I'm pretty sure it actually says in Red Hat documentation that you shouldn't do that. So let's try this again. All right, so we have a file system there. We're actually going to use etcfs tab to mount it. So let's get that right now. etc fs tab, add a line, dev mapper test video, and we're going to mount that to mnt video. The type of file system is xfs. We're going to do defaults, and from the man pages there, video.service 00 mount -a and df-h, and there is our file system. Now, one of the gotchas with this, I always say you can use mount -a as kind of a quick shortcut to see if stuff will work. The thing with VDO is this mount is going to work perfectly right now because that service is already running. So the big test is actually on reboot if this is going to work. So we're going to try that in just a minute. Let's make a file here. Actually, we'll just echo I love RHCE. We're going to send that to mnt video test file. Cat that, make sure it's there. All right, awesome. So we're going to reboot the VM here, and we're going to see if everything works with VDO. I'm actually kind of surprised that I've had some successes with this, because this was for whatever reason a challenge to remember for RHCSA. So we will shut down -R now. That'll kill the connection. Let's ping it. And is it back up already? It's the beauty of Linux. It doesn't take forever to reboot stuff. See if we can SSH into it. Yeah. Not back up quite yet. It's probably still shutting down. All right, so I'm going to take a look at my actual hypervisor real quick and see where it's at. This is not something you're actually able to see on the screen. I'm only sharing the one device. It looks like it's still trying to boot. So I'm going to pause the video here for just a moment, and let's see what happens with this VM, and I will come back. All right, so we're back. That was kind of weird. I actually had to do a force reset on my VM. So let's go back in. Let's see if stuff has mounted, because I did see an error, but it didn't look like anything that was terrible. All right, so it's mounted. It's there. Let's do journal CTL, sudo journal CTL. All right, so this is getting us from the beginning. I'm curious to see what it says about VDO. You know, there's a better way of doing this. grep-i VDO. All right, so that must have been what I saw. All right, so resuming device. Yep. You can also disable VDO devices. I haven't done that before. Mounting it. All right, so it mounted. There's just something weird with it rebooting. I don't know if that's something special in my environment or not, but you know, if that happens on the exam, I'm not quite sure how I would handle that. Maybe I would do the force reset like I did, and then try to reboot again from the command line, and just see what happens. But this looks like stuff worked, and obviously we saw our file system there. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to consider that a win, considering some of the challenges I've had with VDO in the past. And since that's in etcfs tab, then we're good to go for the for that mount persisting through a reboot, assuming you don't hang on reboot when doing that. So at long last, we get to the last of the objectives within the old RHCSA create and configure file systems, which again is a part of the RHCE objectives as well, and that's manage layered storage, and that's going to be with Stratus. So what I am going to do is revert my snapshot real quick again, get to a clean slate, and once that snapshot is reverted, we'll be back and we'll take a look at some Stratus. All right, so we're back. Let's SSH back into our server here. And I'm going to go ahead and install bash completion, because I know I'm going to need that for Stratus. For some reason, when I'm going fast, I forget to actually say the command install for DNF. Works much better when you tell DNF to actually install something. All right, let's sudo I into root, clear our screen, and so we should be good to go with our bash completion. So the little bit of a background on Stratus. Stratus, I think, it's two things that Red Hat's trying to do with this. One, it's to give you some volume management kind of stuff, a la ZFS and ButterFS, those two of which I'm not super familiar with, which I need to become familiar with at some point. And the other thing is to, quote, make it easy just to get an like XFS file system up and going. I myself have not found much use for it, just because the things I have found that were offered by Stratus you can do with LVM and the like. I'm sure there's people out there that work with Stratus all the time that will tell you all sorts of ways that it's useful. And if you're one of those folks, feel free to leave that in the comments, because I would love to learn. It's one of these things that I myself have not used much, but you have to know about it on the exam. Now, if you're curious how I know that this is about Stratus, this actually comes back from my RHCSA training when I was going through these objectives for that exam, and I basically Googled manage layered storage in RHEL and found in RHEL 8's documentation talking about managing layered storage with Stratus. So that's how I learned that Stratus was the thing, and likewise disk compression, how I learned that VDO was the thing for that. So for Stratus, we're going to be working with pools, and this I actually am going to make a couple of partitions because I think we can like expand pools with devices if I recall correctly. So let's actually need to install gdisk. Forget that my snapshot is literally a fresh install of rel, and I did it again, sudo dnf install, and I'm already as root. But rel takes pity on me and does not say why did you, or does not ask why did you do that. All right, so gdisk dev vdb1 or vdb new partition 1. We're going to make this 500 gigabytes. Did I make a mistake with that? Oh. Now I realized it. 500 megabytes, I mean, not 500 gigabytes, because it's a 20 gig drive. Glad it caught that for me. We'll just keep Linux file system. Let's do another one. Partition 2, last sector plus 500 megabytes. We'll write that, yes. And we'll part probe. And there we go, ls block. We have our 2 block devices. So with Stratus, we do need to install some stuff. Now granted, it might already be on your systems just like the VDO, but again, I use the minimal installs, so it makes me have to know what to install for this. I'm actually going to search for Stratus first because I think there's more than one thing. Like VDO, you have to have VDO as well as kmod-kVDO. I think Stratus has 2 things as well, if I recall correctly. Yeah, Stratus and Stratus CLI. That's what I'm thinking of. All right, so DNF is like you can have Stratus, but not the command line tools, which seems kind of odd. But anyway, install Stratus D and Stratus CLI. I misspelled it. Man, I failed both of them. Stratus, and not Startus.cli, but Stratus.cli. And that's going to fail again because I just realized another spelling mistake. To stay true to this being a practice session, I'm not going to edit out my spelling mistakes because they do count on your Red Hat exam. Let this install. Hopefully it won't take too long. All right. So just like VDO, we're going to have to start a service. So systemctl enable Stratus. Stratus D or Stratus, we'll find out. That's it. Systemctl status Stratus D, and it is running and enabled. Awesome. So what I recall with Stratus is first you make a pool, and then you're going to make a file system that's on top of that pool. But the way you're making the file system is through Stratus, which, if I recall, only does XFS. There may be some new things for it now, but I'm pretty sure it is simply XFS for that. You can also do stuff with snapshotting in Stratus. I'm not going to touch that in this video because, quite frankly, I know for a fact that I don't recall exactly how to do the snapshotting. I would need to review that myself for my own exam, but I am going to show you how to, or try to show you how to make the file systems and such with Stratus. All right, so this is where our good old tab completion is going to help us. If I recall, we have Stratus, I think it's create pool. Let's see if tab, let's see. Maybe it's pool create. Yeah. All right. This can be helpful in your exam sometime, is try to make an error, because often you'll get some information that'll be helpful for you with that. All right, so yeah, that's what I want. So we're going to do Stratus pool create. We're going to call this test pool and block devices. That's it. I'm actually just going to do one of the block devices. So dev vdb1. Let's see, fail to dbus. Grumble. Okay, so apparently I can't do this with the little 500 megabyte things. So let's do 2 gigs. So go back to gdisk, dev vdb, and we're going to delete our partitions, and let's make new partitions. So 1 first sector, last sector, we're going to do plus 2 gigs. New second, first sector, last sector, plus 2 gigs. I have a 20 gigabyte block device, so that should be able to do what we need for that. Write that, yes, part probe. All right, so let's try this again. So Stratus pool starts. There we go. Stratus pool create test pool and VDB1. Okay, so Stratus like that. And if I remember right, we can do Stratus pool list. Yeah, and that shows us our pool, shows us the total physical bytes. There's another one with Stratus that shows you stats. Let's see if I remember that. Actually, I'm going to use tab completion for that. Is it file? No, it's not file system. File system is what we're going to use to make the file system. Is it report? Maybe? Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay, so let's make our file system. So Stratus file system create, and do we give that a name? Nope, we tell it the name of the pool that we're using for that. Yeah, I thought we had to give it a name. All right, so we have create. That's it. Pool name, test pool, and then the file system name, testfs. All right, so that should Stratus file system list. That should give us a file system. Now, the thing with this is, notice we did not give it an actual size for this file system, because it's basically it's using all of the storage that's available in the pool. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, if I were to do df-h, we don't see anything there. Block ID, we see our Stratus, should be an XFS that we have here. Let's see if we can find it. Yep, dev mapper, all that good stuff. That I think Stratus you can use UUID for. No, there was one other thing with Stratus. Maybe Stratus was that thing that we had to use. All right, let's take a look at, yeah, we have to use this device name for that, for etcfs tab. Now, I may be wrong with that. Again, feel free to leave that in the comments. I'm just thinking back to preparing for RHCSA and what I remember from that. So let's make a directory, make dir mount stratus. And let's see if we can just mount using the mount command. So mount that. We need to do type. Oh, maybe not, but XFS is the file system that we're doing for this, and mnt stratus. All right, that worked. df-h. Yeah, that's what I remember. This is like, hey, you have a terabyte size. No, you do not have a terabyte of size. There is, look at man stratus. I thought there was a command that basically tells you how much storage and such you're using, because you have to be able to manage this. There's no way to not do that. Let's see, it's telling you about making the pool. I think Stratus CLI is what I want. Pool list, yep. There was something I remember. Was it block dev maybe? Stratus block dev. All right, that's telling us the name. All right, that'll be something that I have to look up as well. And this just for my own information, is because I know obviously DF is not giving you the accurate information for that, but there's a way you can tell how much storage and such you have available with Stratus. So I'll definitely have to look that up. So we're going to umount this, and then we're going to mount point sets. Oh, I misspelled it. That's why. And we're going to add this to etcfs tab, because remember, everything you do has to be able to persist. So we have xsystemd.service equals vdo.service is what we had to do for that. We have to do it for Stratus as well, but I think there was one other thing that we needed. So let's do that man Stratus again, and let's see if it gives us a clue about etcfs tab. Otherwise, it'll just be trial and error. All right, UUID, yep, list output, that's good. All right, what do we need for, that's not telling us much. I think we just have to have or tell etcfs tab that in addition to defaults, we need to have that service running. But I remember there was something else too. Like, it's one of these, I can remember in the back of my head that there was something else. But alas, it is not coming to me. All right, got that. Let's see, FS tab. I'm just curious to see if it'll be in the FS tab man page at all. Yeah, there's nothing there about Stratus. All right, so let's give it a try and let's see what happens. So we want to find, let me get the file system name for Stratus. So that'll be Stratus file system list. All right, so that's the device. All right, let's see what happens. So VI, etc. Before I do that, let me look up man video. Oh, of course, we won't have that installed because this is a fresh thing. So I am going to have to just rely on memory for that. All right, so here we go. Put our device name. We're mounting that to mount Stratus. It's going to be an XFS file system defaults. X systemd.service as service as or service. We'll find out. We want Stratus D. There was one other thing as well. What is it? It had something to do with devices. All right, I'm definitely going to have to look that up. I don't think our VM's going to reboot with this, but let's see if it does. So let me go ahead and get my VM window. This is not something you're going to be able to see because I'm only sharing the one, but I want to see what happens with reboot for this. So shutdown -R now, or actually, we can try this real quick first. Mount -A, df-h. All right, so that mounted. Let's see if that's what we need for the reboot though, because we're dealing with our service here. So shutdown, if I can spell, -R now. All right, so that connection closed. It's like we're rebooting. All right, so I'm watching the VM in another window, and it looks like it's hanging on reboot, which is what I expected. But on this, all right, so let's SSH into our other lab server. I'm going to install Stratus on it, just where I can get access to that man page again. Let's see if we can figure out that other piece. I'm sure that's what's causing my other VM to not boot. Already getting a bit long with this, so I'm just going to look briefly to see if it jumps out at me. Otherwise, we'll unfortunately call Stratus a fail with my practice session, and that will obviously tell me that I need to spend some more time with it. Let's see if there is a clue here that will help me. All right, so let's head to user share doc Stratus D. See if there's anything here in the README file. So I remember it was a particular thing that you have to put in that CFS tab. And I remember like block dev was a part of it. I think this is just for building. Yeah. All right. So there was a folder for Stratus CLI. All right. Let's README. See if there's anything here. Yep. Telling you about installing, tells you about running. All right. Does it have what I want? Coding style? No. All right. So, yep. Unfortunately, in the VM, yeah, had to go to, it's in emergency mode right now. So it obviously did not finish booting. So unfortunately, that is a failure. I'll have to look into Stratus. But the point I'm doing this, I know if you were watching this for tutorial value and such, unfortunately you're probably going to be disappointed because I did mention at the beginning of this and all these videos, they're not intended to be tutorials. even though I do try to give you as accurate information as possible, but it's a chance for me to review some stuff to see if I'm ready for it on the exam. And obviously I'm not remembering enough about Stratus to successfully do something on RHCE with Stratus, but I have about a month prior to the exam, and so that'll be enough time for me to do some examples on my own and wrap my head around it. And quite frankly, I might refer to my old RHCSA video that I did a year ago when it was still fresh on my mind to be able to do that with Stratus. As always, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch. I want to thank returning subscribers. If you enjoyed this video, and in particular enjoy seeing some real life struggle on how to deal with this on an exam, make sure you click like. Feel free to share this with others if you think it would be useful for them. And again, thanks for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you the next time.